Gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
You're listening to the House of Cards on Facebook, YouTube, and BigPatriotRadio.com. All licenses for music and content have been purchased by and are for the express written use of Big Patriot Radio Networks. All information, opinions, and topics are for entertainment purposes and may not expressly represent the opinions of the show's host and or producer. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Introducing to you.
You're on House of Cards, live on Facebook and YouTube.
It's going down.
Locked and loaded with the truth.
And good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome into Beaufort County's House of Cards. Another great Thursday night here. Glad to be with you. It's November 20th, 2025. Almost done with another month. Unbelievable. I'm Mike Covert, your host. For tonight, we're coming to you live from the studios here at Big Patriot Radio in the great state of South Carolina. I want to welcome everybody who are tuning in on both YouTube, Facebook, and we are also broadcasting on BigPatriotRadio.com around the world. Again, that's BigPatriotRadio.com. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, we'd love it if you would go on there and give us a like, a subscribe, share this with your friends. That'll help everybody in the YouTube and Facebook world give a little bit more credence to the show and so forth. Again, want to welcome everybody here. As always, put where you're from, as in born, in the chat bar. And tonight we have a special guest coming on here in just a few minutes. And then we have some other things to talk about. And as always, we want to hear from you. You can go into the chat room or the chat bar in whatever media that you are tuned in on. type away your question, comment, a concern, or what have you, and we'll get it here. And if we need to put it on the screen, we will. We'll talk about it. We'll give you props for doing that. And again, that's in your chat bar, and that'll come to us right here at Beaufort County's House of Cards.
Bringing you the best selection of hits for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
BigPatriotRadio.com.
Have you all heard about skipsdefuskytees.us? That's right, skipsdefuskytees.us. They're all over BigPatriotRadio.com all day, all night. They're T-shirts. They're made right here in America. They're made right here on Defusky Island, right here in Beaufort County. These T-shirts, and they're only like $25, very affordable, have topics like Trump 47, Americana, all kind of stuff, military, shirts that taking a pot shot at Iran and so forth. There's T-shirts with the Secretary of War, the Secretary of Homeland Security. And I remembered this week. Here is the T-shirt that was sent to me by the folks over there at, let's see if I can get it up here. I can't see it. So anyway, it's the Golden Dome. There you see Secretary Hegseth, Secretary of War. The Golden Dome. These are great T-shirts. They, like I said, they're only like $25, $26, something like that. Anyway, want to thank those folks for being a part of the show. And we do have a word from our sponsor, skipsdefuskytees.us. Skips Defusky Tees is giving you a reason to laugh and a reason to travel. Every shirt you buy is a ticket in the Trump Trip giveaway, where you could win a luxury stay in New York City, Vegas, or Miami. We're talking penthouse suites, spa days, casino chips, and flights for two. And all you had to do was buy a T-shirt. Go to skipsdefuskytees.us and grab yours now. The shirts are funny. The prize, it's serious.
Let's go! The station that keeps it rocking 24/7.
Ladies and gentlemen,
BigPatriotRadio.com.
All right, we're going to get into our guest here. I want to change a couple of things in the background. If anybody has a strange looking screen, just let me know and I'll make some changes. We have some new things, some enhancements. Some folks wanted to be able to see it in portrait mode. I guess what I am right now is landscape, but like on a computer screen, but on a phone. Some folks had said, hey, we like to have that in the smaller panel. So supposedly, at least from what I can see on the phone here in the studio, that does work. So enjoy it. Hope it works for you as well. All right. Tonight's guest, I want to bring him on. He's been back there in the green room getting ready. He is a fourth generation low country native, born and raised in rural Bamberg County. For more than 30 years, he's built and led a successful small business through the McAllister Smith Funeral Home, serving families across the Low Country and the Midlands here in South Carolina. He's currently serving in his third term as South Carolina House of Representatives, District 99. Mark and his wife, Elaine, have been married for 32 years now, live on Daniel Island, and have a dog, Hugo. They've got 3 adult sons, Parker, Avery, and Dominic, I believe, and are active members of the St. Clair of Assisi Church. He currently is running, why he's here today, he's running for the Republican nomination for the 1st Congressional District to serve the Low Country in the United States Congress. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Mark Smith to the show. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, Mike, thank you so much for having me here. Mic check here, volume, everything's coming through fine.
You sound great. Sound great.
Great.
Can you sing
I've made it to the big leagues. I am now on the Big Patriot Radio with the incredible Mike Covert. So I have arrived in life. Not bad for Bamberg, right?
I hear you, man. Beautiful country there in Bamberg. Beautiful country. Love it out there.
I tell
Man,
you what, I wouldn't trade that childhood small town southern upbringing for anything in the world.
I hear you, man. I hear you. It is a beautiful place. You live in a beautiful place. Daniel Island's nothing to sneeze at. Got a lot of traffic over there, but a beautiful part of Charleston.
Very blessed indeed on many levels. God is good.
Absolutely, all the time. Mark, I want to jump right in, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're being pulled all over the first district with things, but I want to jump right in and be cognizant of your time. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a strange screen, just let me know and I can make some adjustments. But anyhow, Mark, you've served 3 terms in the South Carolina House now. District 99, running to fill the first congressional seat. It's interesting. The House seat you filled was Nancy Mace's, and now you're running to fill her congressional seat as she's running for the gubernatorial nod. Did you have a conversation with Nancy, prior to this, that, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing?
Many of us had heard that she was going to be throwing her hat in the ring to run for governor, and she had been kind of teasing it on social media, Mike. As you know, there were lots of teaser when I'm governor types of posts on social media. And so while I did not go seek permission from her or
Right.
her advice and counsel, I guess probably if you ask her that question, she would probably tell you that pain in the rear, Mark Smith, the only question he kept asking me is, when are you going to make your announcement? That was my only question I had for Congresswoman Mace, because as a small town Southern guy who still believes in tradition, traditional values, and honoring systems and procedures, I did not want to get ahead of my skis, knowing that she had intentionally said that she was going to be making that announcement. And I waited for her to make her announcement and gave her a full week. And then we launched and made our announcement to run for this open seat to represent the folks in the first congressional district.
Outstanding, and it was perfect timing. That was perfect timing.
And the response is Mike was overwhelming. I remember my wife and I were leaving the house to go over to the venue, New Realm Brewery, and on the announcement night, and I remember saying, "Hey, let's just say a little prayer." And I remember saying, "Dear sweet baby Jesus, please let at least 75 of my family and friends show up for this event, so I'm not up there at that microphone all by myself talking to an empty room." And when I arrived and saw there was a line outside to get in that place, and there were over 300 people at that event, I was quite humbled, and it was truly one of those moments where you're doing the right thing and people support you. It felt incredible.
Being a state representative, Mark, and then comparing that to serving in Congress, while being legislatively somewhat similar, they're vastly different. How do you feel like you have versed yourself with subjects like national security, federal tax policies, federal social programs, homeland security, stuff like that you don't typically broach those subjects at the General Assembly level, but now those subjects are at hand? How have you versed yourself to get ready for that?
I think one thing that we can first and foremost agree on is that Washington is broken, and it's way out of control. And like many of us haven't forgot, we the states created Washington. They only exist because of the states. And so what we see happening is just out of control spending. And so how am I preparing myself for the national debate and issues that are on the federal level is the same way I prepared myself to step up from serving one term as a part-time legislator on Mount Pleasant Town Council while being a full-time businessman and stepping up to deal with state issues. Mike, I never have professed to be a subject matter expert on everything, every issue. In fact, there's no one that can be. But the same way I govern and manage and lead my business is the same way I govern and manage and execute my votes on town council, in the state house, and on the federal level. And that is truly by surrounding myself with a wise counsel, engaging subject matter experts, having meaningful conversations with all people, not even just people that I agree with in echo chambers. It's important that we hear all sides of every issue. So that's the folks along the first congressional district have already invested in me to be ready to go to work in DC on day one. Through being a town council member, it has made me a better state representative because I understand how municipal government works.
Mhm.
Take it to the next level. I will be prepared to go to work on day one in Washington, D.C., because I don't need anybody to show me or teach me or tell me how to file a bill or drop legislation. And so I'll take that same experience that I've gleaned on each level and that same servant leadership attitude and philosophy that's biblically worldview centered to Washington, D.C., and get us back to some good old fashioned constituent services that's rooted in serving the people and not myself.
Mark, what do you feel is the greatest threat to the people of the first congressional district, and whatever that is? What is your plan to move that?
Mike, first of all, thank you personally for being willing to put yourself out there as a candidate and run. And you know what it's like to step up and run, and you had your reasons for running. And I'd say mine for running for this first congressional district is just simply rooted in making sure that the American dream that I am a product of, you said it in your intros earlier. Here's a poor country boy from, by what some folks would say, the wrong side of the tracks,
Mhm.
whose grandparents were retired cotton mill workers, who's the youngest of three boys in a single woman household who live in government subsidized apartments, now running for United States Congress. Mike, think about that and all that has to happen and the anointing from God
Yep.
from that beginning to where I am now. The American dream, which many on the left and in the media would want us to believe is dead, and that we need to adopt and adapt and buy into this whole socialism movement. Hogwash.
Mhm.
I want no part of that. I want my three adult sons and my unborn grandchildren and yours as well to have the same opportunities to build, dream, and create the type of life that they want to have for themselves. Many would say it is statistically impossible that I own and operate 9 funeral homes
Wow.
throughout the Low Country and the Midlands from my simple beginnings in Bamberg, South Carolina. There's a lot of work to be done in Washington, but what we got to get back to is making sure we're keeping Washington out of our pockets as small as possible. And we're focusing on, as who was it that gets the quote, keep the main thing the main thing.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And not pay attention and worry about all the noise and rhetoric, because there's always going to be noise and rhetoric out there. There were
Absolutely.
for our founding fathers.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm running, Mike. It truly is to get back to the basics, to keep that American dream, that American experience alive that our forefathers fought for. And we do live in the greatest country in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We said it, or you said it earlier, and I agree with you that nationally we are a country divided. And suffice to say, we're divided by a large or wide gap. When you look at Mark Smith, the legislator, are you a play by the rules guy, or I'm here to do the job my voters want kind of guy? And I think I know what you're going to say, but it's good to
Well,
just say that.
we do have a little bit of a relationship, and you do know a little bit about me, and you know that I'm reminded every single day how precious and short life is. And every single day, you, Mike Covert, and Mark Smith, and everybody out there, all the listeners, get the opportunity to decide through our actions and our words what our each individual living legacy will be. I pray that my unborn grandchildren are very proud of their grandfather when they talk about who I was as a husband, a father, a businessman, and a legislator. Because I don't put on faces or mask or chameleon. The same Mark in my business who prays with my employees, who helps citizens and constituents dealing with arguably the most difficult time of their life, dealing with the death of a loved one or a pet, and create some type of path forward in a meaningful event to remember that life being remembered in the middle of all that chaos. And so for me, I'm a collaborator. I'm a results focused person. And so sometimes that means we can abide by the rules and meet expectations of those around us. And that would apply to leadership in the house, the bankers that I borrow money from professionally, and my family members from which I have commitments to. But sometimes, Mike, you got to make a little noise and push the envelope a little bit and stand your grounds when people are trying to get you to vote on items and issues that violate your core values from which you make decisions, that I always try to come back to, for that are pretty simple and easy. Read the Bible, the Ten Commandments. I mean, let's keep this thing simple. If it is biblically worldview centered, that's probably where you can almost guarantee Mark Smith's going to be making his decision from, and the frame of references that I would be basing my decisions from.
Gotcha.
Hope that's helpful.
Absolutely. As a side note, are there any funeral directors in Congress?
You know, there are none currently
Wow.
in
Is there? I
Congress
don't know
now.
that
So
there ever has
yeah,
been. Do you know?
yeah. There has been, there was a connection to one of the former House members. It's been many years that had a connection. Family member was in the business, but not
Yeah.
him personally.
You know, it's a great perspective. While I don't know your perspective, I don't know anything about that line of work. I think it's a great perspective because you're right. You deal with the end, day in and day out. The end. That's a
Yes.
completely. That's a completely. You know, it'd be a great conversation between maybe an OBGYN doctor, you know, delivering babies and a
Right.
funeral director. I don't know. I'll go off on a tangent.
We'll come back for that
Yeah.
conversation on another day.
Yeah. So speaking
Yeah.
of worldviews, would you be in favor of the U.S. getting involved militarily against Venezuela and the Maduro regime and the drug cartels, or you know, what's your feeling on that?
You know, Mike, let's just be very clear. Putting boots on the ground in is should always be our last option when we talk about our human assets in these wars abroad. I think that the U.S. certainly has a place to play in those, and I support President Trump. And when you hear Secretary Marco Rubio give the debriefings that he just gave from the G7 and all that's happening, I support the administration's effort in what we're doing because what's the purpose for our government? What's the core function of government? Keep our citizens safe from both domestic and foreign. And
Right.
so, and I'll always stand with Israel. I think that we have a fundamental, again, biblical rooted responsibility. But I also think that that should not default to a carte blanche. Tell us what you need. We'll send not only the assets to help you come along, but we'll also send our troops and our people at the cost of their lives. So I think boots on the ground should always be the last resort. But I do think that we need to continue to do the strong negotiation that President Trump is doing and leverage any lever that he can pull to be able to continue to have strength through power in keeping America's safety always first and foremost.
Do you foresee the with whatever intelligence that you know has been you know forwarded to you and allowed to come that way? Do you foresee by the end of the year something happening between the United States and Venezuela?
You know, I'm very I'm very hope filled. However, look how many times and look who's in charge right now. You know, you got the inmates running the asylum, right? And
In many
it
ways,
breaks your heart. But you know, I what President Trump is doing to keep us safe. Think about the fentanyl amount of fentanyl and even cocaine that we are able to detract and stop through our relationships with the Mexican border. Now, Venezuela, all those folks are interested in doing, Look what's happening. They're now trying to drive them through boats and do anything they can to advance their agenda moving forward. And it is not in our best interest to support them in any way possible. And we need to be paying attention to that. But I pray for world peace, and I pray that the right people can get back in control. And it's just kind of hard to imagine that we are where we are, Mike. But the
Yeah.
devil's going to work hard every single day, and we know what his mission is.
Absolutely.
It's to
When it-
kill, divide, and destroy.
Absolutely. When it's looking good, you better watch out.
Right,
You
right.
better watch
You better look behind you, right? You got to look behind you.
we do have some we have a couple of questions that have come in. Would you ever, this is from America Together, would you ever take money from APAC? Says Mace has taken a boatload.
Yeah, and you know, the great news is to that person who typed that question and to everyone out there is that I do fully support the fact that you can see who donates to all of our campaigns. I think that's wonderful. I think it is absolutely an incredible thing. The travesty and the sad reality, Mike, as you well know, is that this primary for me to run for U.S. Congress right now, just the primary, y'all, is $1 million race.
Oh, absolutely.
And Mike, isn't that disgusting?
It
We'll
is. And I
dive
have
deep in that,
have
but
a
the
comment on
reality
that.
of it is it's $1
Absolutely.
million. And
Absolutely.
so and I'm not avoiding the question. My answer is I'm willing to put skin in the game. In fact, I've publicly said this. I'll match dollar for dollar. Begrudgingly, I got my wife to agree to this. I got to give that footnote because she may see this video, and I want, honey, I'm footnoting your begrudging.
Yeah.
Dollar for dollar, up to $300,000, so that I have skin in the game. Because as a businessman who's been very blessed, I can't come to Mike Covert and other business friends and say, "Will you donate to my campaign?" and not do that. Now, the flip side of that is, I don't believe these seats are for sale. And I don't believe in 100% self funding, because if I can't get enough of the constituents to believe in my platform issues to also put skin in the game, then maybe I'm not the right candidate for that. And I don't think these seats should be for sale. So with that, I need to raise $700,000 from PAC money and other folks' money. And I've already proven it. My deed matches my creed. And I'll say that again for someone out there who didn't get that the first time. My deed matches my creed. My votes are not for sale. I would consider and will take APAC money if they donate to me. And I have voted against many folks who have associations, PAC money in the state house, because again, my votes aren't for sale. I'm not beholden to anyone, but we do have a message that we need to fund. And as long as it does not violate my fundamental core
Right.
values, I will take PAC money. And a lot of folks don't like that, but I have to be honest and transparent because you will see that. And that's my rationale behind that.
Sure. So, you know, a lot of folks don't understand that the dollar is the driver, unfortunately. And, you know, yes, our election system, campaign finance system is severely distorted. When I was running alongside or, you know, against Nancy Mace and Kathy Landing, doing fantastic until the team got together and said, you know, I think we had raised about $1 million. Nancy was almost to 2 million. There was not
Crazy.
enough time left to be able to outpace her. We knew the writing on the wall. So we decided to suspend that and go somewhere else. But that is a true testament that, I mean, it was every day, all day long on that phone. And if it is what it is, unfortunately, until, you know, you get into Congress and rules are changed, if that ever happens, it still is, it is what it is. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, and Mike, thank you for that. And you know, and just one more layer on that. You know, when I say I voted against donors, PACs, individual folks who donated to my town council race, my state house race, and I will in Washington as well, what they never get is surprised.
Mhm.
Just like House leadership and my mayor when I was on town council. If I'm not with them, I will go tell them I'm not with you, and here are the reasons why I'm not with you.
Mhm.
Because those pesky facts oftentimes get in the way of false narratives. And sometimes, Mike, you and I, as males and just normal citizens, think we know all of the facts on the subject matter. But when we're presented facts on issues and we're more focused on moving good legislation forward and not our own personal agendas and trying to be right all the time, even when we know we're wrong, then our positions will move from a green vote to a red vote or a red vote to a green vote. But as long as it's factually based and we're doing the very best we can, and I wish I had 100% approval rating on any of my time serving in
Don't we
government.
all? Don't
Uh,
we
I,
all?
I wish I had 100% approval rating in my own house, being married for 32 years,
Yes,
but I
absolutely.
don't. And that beautiful Italian Catholic wife of mine that this Southern Baptist boy from Bamberg married, sometimes I come home from the State House and she's got a nice chilled bottle of champagne in the refrigerator and she gives me a glass when I walk in the door. I know I got some splaining to do
Yeah,
on some of my votes I took earlier that week because she didn't necessarily agree with me. And
gotcha.
that's okay. And we found a way to make this marriage work through all of that.
Outstanding. So you're in Charleston County. I'm down here in Beaufort County, and we have folks all over the world actually watching, but the majority is right here in the first district. When it comes to Beaufort County, what can you say to the folks in the Low Country, specifically Beaufort County, with in relation to Paris Island, MCAS Beaufort, MCAS Laurel Bay Housing, the Naval Hospital, all right here in Beaufort? That hey, I'm gonna be there to make sure you don't lose any funding, and if possible, we're even going to grow those a little bit. Where do you stand on these military bases?
My father's retired Army, my brother's retired Navy. Mike, unequivocally, without any hesitation, I can tell you I'll fight like hell for our district's military heritage. The first congressional district, you can't look at that and not think about um, our Marine base, Paris Island, Joint Base Charleston, the naval base, and our strong military presence that we have here. And we need to make sure and BRAC is a real issue. We need to make sure we're coming in this eyes wide open. I will absolutely fight for what has made our first congressional district what it is and the strong military presence that we have here. And they will always be a top priority to me because it's part of my family. And so for me, it will be a top priority. That Naval Hospital, we need to make sure we're continuing to do everything we can to keep it there, to expand those services and the resources. And that's been one of our issues in
Mhm.
terms of bringing home the bacon for the first congressional district. I can tell you it will be a first priority of mine on many levels. The military aspect, Mike, and also, just to go there for a second, what about all these woefully and long overdue infrastructure projects?
Mm.
And right in Beaufort County, here we got a beautiful waterfront park that's now got a fence up. We can't
Yeah.
even enjoy the park like we have for generations
Yeah.
because of the foundation concerns out of safety. The city of Beaufort and the county of Beaufort cannot afford to do that infrastructure project on their own. The
No.
citizens need to make sure they're getting help from the state and also the federal government. And Shannon Erickson has already made me pledge in blood that I would get, that would be one of my
Work on that.
first priorities to bring. And the number keeps moving from 40 million to about 80 million
80 million.
for that infrastructure project. So it
Yeah.
seems like that 80 million, Mike, maybe you've heard a different number, but that's the latest number I've heard.
80 million, and they're finding, the more they dig around and whatever, they're finding things are even worse. They pulled out 200-year-old palm tree, trees, broken, of course. There's pictures floating around the other day about that. That is unbelievable that, what they're able to get down into. Let me ask you, one of our listeners did put up another question, asked, point to the New Testament references supporting your position of support for Israel.
Yeah, I'd love to be one who could pull scripture from that. If you grab that person's name, I'll be glad to follow up on that. But
Okay.
just as a Christian conservative from Bamberg, South Carolina, listener, I'm sorry that I have the inability to quote scripture from where that's coming from. But I can tell you that I have always heard in every church, and I'll go a step further. I grew up Southern Baptist, and I am a convert in the Catholic Church and an active Catholic Church now. And I have never not heard in both of those churches that
Mhm.
Israel is our homeland, and we need to do everything we can. So that has been a lifelong reference, but I will do my very best to find that scripture, and I promise and commit to you. In fact, I'll give my cell phone number. It's 843-442-8371, and I give that person permission to text me directly or anyone else.
But you can't ask for more than that. The president has made it clear from when he, running for his second term here, that he supports closing. As a matter of fact, it's interesting because when I actually had the same opinion, and I think Nancy did as well when I ran. But anyway, he supports closing the federal Department of Education. Again, 100%. I'm in board with that. In my opinion, that is not a function of the federal government. It is however, a core function of every state in the union. I'd like your opinion of the possible closing of the federal Department of Education.
Can I just say amen and we go to the next question? But amen. We can't close that entire department soon enough, in my opinion. And listen, when it comes to when it comes to educating our children, Mike, look what's happened even on these county school boards, and you see it on the state level in terms of our college universities. In fact, I had a constituent from the Beaufort area after an event down there call me afterwards and text me a screenshot of one of our state universities blasting our president and talking about how terrible the president was. Now, regardless of what side of the aisle you're sitting on, should our state-funded universities be taking a position and like that? And so I quickly called the president and those involved at the university, shared that screen with them, and they took it down immediately and apologized. And as much as they said we'd love to guarantee it'll never happen again, that they can't. But we got to make sure, back to your point, we're driving those decisions back down as close to the student's classroom as possible, and making sure that every dollar that's coming into that school system and school district is being focused and driven into that classroom, so that teachers are getting fair wages and pay, and that our kids are getting educated, because we don't have a spending problem. It's not a money problem with our education system. And the less DC we have involved with that, in fact, if we have no DC involvement with that, Mike, I would say that's going to help us move the needle even that much quicker.
I think that we're in a good position, we being South Carolina. Shannon Erickson, the chairwoman of the House Education Committee, does a stellar job. I'm very much in her corner, as am with the State Department Superintendent, Ellen Weaver. I think she has done remarkable things. And, I'd like to see, like you're saying, that, if the federal government was out of it, and this was done by the state, yes, there's a lot of work to be done, but this is where the functionality of it happens, is at the General Assembly to the local school board.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you being involved for the last 3 terms as well.
I echo those sentiments, and I wrote down here on my notes here. I got a couple, just 4 things written down. Your name, of course, Beaufort County House of Cards, Big Patriot Radio, and Beaufort County delegation members, because I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out. I know that most folks know this, but it needs to be said on this show. Beaufort County is very blessed with your delegation. 4 out of 6 committee chairs in the House are from your Beaufort County delegation. And that is a beautiful thing for Beaufort County and the entire Low Country. And
Absolutely.
so we need to come alongside and first of all thank them, but also continue to push them that we're moving the needle forward as much as we can to take care of the low country while we have. You got to fish while the fish are biting, as Grandpa would say.
Absolutely. And for those listeners or viewers, he's speaking of House members, Judiciary Chairman Weston Newton. I think is it Rules and AI that Jeff Bradley is chairman of?
That's right, and also oversight as
Oversight,
well.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
Bill Hersman is Ways and
LCI,
Means, LCI
LCI,
rather, and of course Senator Tom Davis, chairman of the Senate LCI.
and Shannon. You mentioned Shannon
And
earlier.
absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of Senator Davis, there's been a push nationwide, not just in South Carolina, but nationwide for medicinal marijuana to be legalized. And again, we see that here in South Carolina. I fortunately and honorably was able to work with Senator Davis here locally to get where we are and where the House and the Senate have got to. We're still pushing that, and I'm not talking about recreational. I'm not a believer in that, but medicinally. Is this something that federal legislation needs to be changed to allow doctors and patients to have that conversation to use that type of treatment, or could the laws be changed to drill that down to each state level? Where does the federal government come into here? Because it's still illegal.
Right. Yeah, certainly the federal government has a role in that, and once that classification could be made, that would be a game changer for everything. And Mike, on that, just to be very, very clear, I am a co-signer on the House side of that bill. I think you know that as well, but just to make that clear to everyone, that I do, like Senator Davis, fully support medicinal purposes for that, and many in the party have given me a hard time on that. So this would be one of those times, Mike, when you say, "Are you a go along to get along guy?" No, I'm an independent thinker, and I'm willing to take calculated risk on things that are important to me. And here's the short version of that: it's what I do for a living.
Mhm.
It's a shame that in my business, when folks are diagnosed with a terminal illness and they're coming in to prearrange and pre-plan their own funerals or that for a loved one, and they're talking about little Johnny having to illegally get grandma or mom and dad gummies to handle this pain management during the last weeks of their lives in
Right.
terms of pain management. Mike, it's like grandma said, when you know better, you do better. And we have a real opportunity to change things and how it's being delivered. And like you said, we're not talking about full on
Right.
recreational use, and we can even regulate to protect your rights if you don't want to smell it being smoked. There
Right.
are many ways in which that could be distributed. We could keep it really tight through the medical university and how it's being dispensed throughout the state.
Right.
And I do not believe that that's just automatically defaulting to, as some would say, a slippery slope, and it's just the
Yeah.
first step in legalizing marijuana for the state of South Carolina. I do not support the full use of legalizing a recreational purposes, but I have heard personally and have seen too many times and too many testimonies in the House of families that are hurting, whose quality of life could be different if only we'd modify those state laws to allow them to medically and pharmaceutically graded be dispensed medicinal marijuana to help them in their lives. And I do support that.
As you know, there was a big topic during when Nancy Mace first took office on a federal level: drill, baby, drill. So to Mark Smith, are you in favor of drilling off the South Carolina coast, or is that's hands off?
Mike, I mean, really, for this question, I mean, we're going to put it off Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms. We're going to destroy the economy in Myrtle Beach. We're going to
Yeah.
put it in Ladies Island, Fripp Island, Hilton Head. There is no place for offshore drilling anywhere in South Carolina. And I'm so thankful for our governor to have created that contract with the president, and I would pray that would be extended and work very hard to get that extended. I do support a D, all of the above, energy generation approach, including, let me be very specific, nuclear. Because far too long, I'm from here. I remember the whole VC Sumner
Mm,
debacle.
mm,
But y'all, it's time to move on and to admit, to recognize, to admit the failures that happened with VC Sumner, learn from those. And now here we have Georgia with not one, but two working nuclear reactors
mhm.
so far ahead of us from generation. Because, Mike, as you already know, most folks in South Carolina do not know that last Christmas we had rolling blackouts during Christmas, not even during the peak working hours of businesses pulling energy out of the grid. We gotta continue to focus on energy generation, but offshore drilling in the state of South Carolina is an absolute no-go on any level, on any basis. It needs to stay where it currently is, and that's the Gulf of Mexico, right? Down in leave those rigs where they are, but we have got to make sure we're having a very meaningful, deep conversation about generation, how we're going to add power to the grid, distribution, and more importantly, keeping it reliable and affordable for the ratepayers. And it cannot be on the backs of the ratepayers. We got many South Carolinians who are making very tough decisions every day. Do I pay the light bill? Do I pay rent? These high priced groceries, the unaffordability of housing
Mhm.
crisis that we have in the country that South Carolina is not exempt from. So we got to make sure we're focusing on reliable, affordable energy. When we flip the switch, that it always continues to flow.
That's a great take, and a lot of people don't really understand the whole VC Sumner thing because it's very complicated and it's not it's not a sexy subject. But this is a serious subject. I had not actually thought about Georgia, but you're exactly right. Uh, we're behind the ball there. I was disappointed this last assembly session when the power generation scheduled in, is it Colleton County?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of a debacle going on there. It was disappointing that it to the novice. Are we going down that same road as VC Sumner as we move forward? Hopefully not. Tell us, take a few minutes if you would tell the viewers and listeners, from you, why should people consider and vote for Mark Smith, Republican nominee for the first district in South Carolina?
I'm from here. When you hear some of the candidates even speak on the campaign trail, they're not quite sure if they're from North Carolina or South Carolina. We know it's Beaufort, South Carolina. It's not Beaufort. Y'all, I'm fourth generation from here. I genuinely care about this district. I'm frustrated also with government. As a full-time businessman who's been trying to grow my business and volunteer and serve on a part-time basis as an elected official to make sure that our state continues to move in the right direction, I'm very proud of almost all of my votes in the state house during the 5 years that I've served. I will complete my next session, which will be the sixth year,
Mm,
which is 2-year terms.
mm,
Um, and then I will not seek reelection for the House, as I'll be filing for the U.S. House to represent the first congressional district in Washington, D.C. I promise the same mark that I have been. If you want to know what a man or a woman is likely to do in the future, look backwards at what they've done. That same mark in the Mount Pleasant Town Council was the same mark you saw in Columbia, South Carolina. Will be the same mark in DC. We got a lot of work to do it. And in Charlie Kirk's words himself, rest in peace, Charlie, we got a country to save, y'all. In December, I'm sorry, in November, when the general election happens next year,
mm.
President Trump will have served 2 years at that point. We got to send someone who is experienced, has proven results, and ready to go to work day one because there's only 2 years left of his term. And we only have a slim majority in the House and in the Senate. We saw what the radical left and what the media tried to spin on this government shutdown, blaming it on Republicans. That was not our fault. Most folks know it took 60 votes. We don't have 60 votes, Mike. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
We got to hold every seat we have, because if we don't put a candidate up that can beat the Democrat, and the Democrats who want this seat back take this seat, what will be the first thing they do? They will absolutely do everything they can to unravel everything President Trump has done and put us right back where we were 4 years ago. And we cannot have that in the first congressional district. So I would tell folks that my walk is authentic. There's a reason why I was the legislator of the year by the Firemen Association, the Police Association, the Coroners Association, and even the conservation voters of South Carolina, who aren't typically with us, because my votes take care of this beautiful place that we get to call home. I had President Trump's endorsement during my last election as a state representative. I'm going to work very, very hard to earn it again in my bid for Congress, and hopefully I get it. But if I don't, I'm going to continue to work equally as hard for the people of the first congressional district. This seat belongs to them. It doesn't belong to Nancy Mace. It won't belong to me. It belongs to the people, and we need to get back to serving the people's best interest and not the politicians' best interest.
Amen, brother. I put your website on the screen, votemarksmith.com. Is there any other way that folks can get in touch with you, whether they want to just learn more about Mark Smith or donate, or is this the best way? Votemarksmith.com.
All the links are on there, and every social media platform is that same handle. Vote Mark Smith on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We'd love to have you call us. My cell number, I've given it already once. I'll give it again. About to give my cell number, so pull your phones out. That number is 843-442-8371. Call me, text me, email me. It's mark@votemarksmith.com email address. All of that information is on my website. We believe in being open, accessible, and transparent. And Mike, I got to tell you, it means the world to me that you allowed me to come on tonight and spend some time with you. Super proud of what you're doing, just simply trying to get the conservative message out there, because there's so much false narrative being pushed, as we know, from the mainstream media, and we got a country to save. It's time to get to work.
That's right. His name is Mark Smith, Honorable Mark Smith. He's out of Daniel Island, South Carolina, representing District 99 in the South Carolina House, now running for South Carolina 1st Congressional District. Check him out at votemarksmith.com. Mark, it's great to see you again, as always. Hopefully, I don't know if your team told you, we're going to try to do a lunch with you and myself and Bill. We're going to get that together just to spend some time and talk.
Look forward to it.
I really want to appreciate and thank you for coming on. Tell your family I appreciate giving up an hour. Let us know how things are going as we get closer to the primary and people start weeding themselves out. Want to get you back on here and drill down even more. Mark Smith, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, Mike. Thank you, guys.
You as well. All right. All right, Mark Smith.
Introducing to you.
You're on House of Cards, live on Facebook and YouTube.
It's going down now.
Locked and loaded with the truth.
All right, we are back. Let's this whole screen thing is kind of crazy here. There we go. Anyway, Mark Smith, great guy. I've had the pleasure of knowing him, running for Congress again, 1st Congressional District seat on the Republican ticket. Check him out, votemarksmith.com. That's votemarksmith.com. And hopefully we'll have him back on as the campaign rolls forward. All right. Moving on, we brought you a story last year about achievement rates in Beaufort County schools, specifically around the minority students and some gaps that were there. We have new data that we're going to share with you tonight from the South Carolina Department of Education, specifically in algebra for African-American students. And again, this is in Beaufort County. So the EOCP encourages instruction on the specific standards for critical thinking, skills necessary in algebra. You know, probably 30, 40, 50 years ago, algebra was something that the higher achievement would have to be, go into. Now, algebra is just a part of your learning experience. If you want to gain critical thinking skills, you need to have a grasp of algebra. It's not, it is standard, is where I'm going with that. Measuring statewide, and this EOCP also documents student mastery of academic standards for algebra. Now, remember, Beaufort County School District has made some very large promises, claims, investments to its ongoing commitment. And let me take a quick pause. I want to thank this research done. He didn't give me permission to use his name, I don't believe. But Tony, I want to thank you and appreciate you for your work here in sharing it. Anyway, large promises, investments, claims to the commitment supporting students in the STEM experience. I'm going to show you data, and this data is specific once again to those students who have claimed or filed under African American as race. The results, quite frankly, are staggering. And let's go up here and let me move a couple of screens around. I'm going to share these with you while we're talking about it. And bada bada boom. Let's see if we can bring that over. And bear with me just a second. Bear with me. And let's share that. All right, we are sharing. And let me see here. I hope everybody can see that. Looks like you can. So you may want to make your screen a little bit bigger to drill into this. I don't think I can do that on my side. You're going to need to do that on your side. So these statistics are comparing Beaufort County, and this is from the state. This is not from Beaufort County. This is from the state. And this researcher has pulled data from 7 school districts. Beaufort County, obviously, Richland 1, Richland 2, Dorchester 2, Florence 1, York 3, and Aiken. Now, these districts are all similar in size, demographics, poverty rate, and budget allocation, as is Beaufort County School District. So these columns are split into the ranking of Beaufort versus Richland 1, Beaufort versus Richland 2, and so on and so forth. And the vertical columns are students who have received A, B's, and C's collectively in algebra, D and F's collectively in algebra, all B's, all A's. That's how this is split up. No other way to put this, but the results from the Department of Education indicate, and this is their numbers, that Beaufort County is absolutely dead last in comparison to all of these 7 school districts. Now, what about the rest of the state? Okay, well, there is a ton of school districts. As you can see here, some counties have more than one school district. Beaufort County, we only have one. It's the Beaufort County School District. Some counties, Dorchester, I know they have at least 2, possibly more. Charleston, I would assume Charleston has, again, at least 2, maybe more. Anyhow, in the category of African-American students scoring all A's, they were dead last. Scoring all B's, and that's compared to all these other 6. Scoring all B's, Beaufort County is next to last. Scoring A, B's, and C's, again, now Beaufort on the other end of the spectrum is dead last. Scoring D's and F's, guess who came home the winner? Beaufort County School District. This is not a proud moment. Let me just say that. These numbers create an urgent and dire request for people to reach out. That's what we're imploring here. I'm telling you this because you need to reach out, no matter your race, white, black, brown, purple, yellow, green. It doesn't matter. These numbers, however, are based on African-American students and their comprehension of algebra. You need to speak out and speak up to the Beaufort County School Board It begs the question to the school board, what percentage of minority students must be denied a quality and effective educational experience before the board mandates a change? Let me say that again. And I had someone this week putting all this together. Oh man, why are you busting out on African American kids? No, you don't understand. You're not listening. Pay attention. I'm saying I'm presenting these numbers and asking you to contact the school board and say this. Hey, what is the actual percentage of minority students, black and brown, that must be denied a quality and effective educational experience vis-a-vis how many have to fail before the board mandates a change? What's it going to take? Obviously, I'm asking, we aren't there yet. Last place is not bad enough. So in other words, how much a failure do the black students have to have before the Beaufort County School Board actually does something about this? This is serious. This needs to be looked at now. Now, with this type of historical data, black and brown students will probably not even qualify for minimum wage jobs. And if they do, that should not be the only option after graduating high school. If you remember the report we did last year, we gave the number of 68% of graduating high school seniors, African American descent, are qualified or quantified as unemployable. That's from the state. Now, little note here, we're going to make the same data available. In speaking with the researcher, Tony said we're going to make this available for Hispanic and Latino students as well. That data is being gathered and crunched right now. It'll be good to have a data comparison, even Asian and Caucasian. Some have asked, I never stood algebra and I'm fine. Okay, my answer to that is, well, your condition and situation is not the same when you were in school 30, 40, 50 years ago as today's students. In many facets, the situations are vastly different. And one would hope that you would want more for your child than you had. So if you take the position that, well, I didn't do it and I'm fine, that may be true. But again, children today are different than 40 years ago when you were in high school or 50 years ago. Not to mention the fact that we always should want more and better for our children and our grandchildren. Algebra is needed by all students because it serves as a vital gateway to advanced math, open doors to high-paying STEM jobs, and economic opportunity. It's the entry. Algebra is the entry. Geometry is the entry. You want your child to succeed? They need algebra. So the disparity here is why are the African American students failing more than anyone else on that chart? Our students deserve more than performative leadership. Our staffs require more than performative leadership, and our community demands more than performative leadership. People don't like to hear this, but I'm going to ask it again. Does Beaufort County School District have a two-tier education system in mathematics education? You tell me. Is there a system for white children who are excelling, or Asian children if they're excelling, and then a substandard one where the African American students are failing? I can't compare those because I haven't seen that. I can only look at what we see, and this is painting a dismal picture. What is it about our African American students in our county, in our school district, that permeates this anemic academic performance in the state's algebra program? What is it? What are we doing in Beaufort County that is causing a failure? Is it better for Beaufort County School Board or the district to just ignore this and they'll go away? Do they need to deny this? Or shall they be upset with people who are literally bringing it to light as a catastrophe? Yes, yours truly. So do we shun people who bring it to light? Do we tell them that they're just being, and they're being caustic? Or do we do something about this? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. You need to have the algebra skills to succeed in this world. This is quantifying it to put it in perspective that there is a problem. Some school board members may say that this assessment doesn't actually or factually measure learning. Ask yourselves, who of you listening, watching, would have spinal surgery or board an airplane or take an ocean cruise, knowing that the individual responsible for your health and safety did not participate or meet and exceed the assessment standards for licensure? Think about this just a second. Contact your school board members, contact the media, contact your state legislators, contact your community members. This is criminal against our children.
Your Rock Authority. Big Patriot Radio.
I wouldn't tell anybody about this.
All right, it is 5 after 8. We're coming around out of turn 3 and 4 here. Update on Willie's bar shooting and the murder of 4 people. Let's go ahead and stop sharing that screen. There we go. There's been a couple of press conferences since this has happened and since we had the last show. One by the sheriff I guess it was Monday or Tuesday. No, it was last Thursday or Friday. The sheriff said that now the count of people there the night of the shooting, Willie's Bar and Grill out on St. Helena, wasn't 700 after all, he said. He said more like 300, 350, 300. That's interesting. The interesting thing about that is, that's a pretty big, bold difference, Chief. I call that, that's a little outside the coloring beyond the lines. But anyway, the interesting thing during this latest press conference, Sheriff Tanner, Willie Terrell was there. Pretty much had to be because he was subpoenaed to have a court hearing Monday. So he showed up and Willie Terrell was present but kept getting cut off by the sheriff. Yes, Willie was asking questions. The sheriff was getting his feelings hurt and telling him he wasn't going to argue with him. I didn't sense an argument. It was questions, and it was a question and answer time. But he kept getting cut off by the sheriff. When Sheriff Tanner said, yes, we are going to shut you down. He said earlier that this address where Willie's Bar and Grill and Breakfast is, this address is a nuisance with over 400 calls for service since 2014. Well, I thought I would show you this. Let's see if I can find it. Let's pull this up and go back here. I have a document from the sheriff's office, and I'm going to dispute what he said, because if you look at this, this right here is one of the pages of the incident report, okay? From the mass shooting, the murder of 4 people out there at Willie's. If you look on this page, and let's see, where is the number? Did I bring up the wrong one? Golly geez. Golly geez. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Let's go back here. Bear with me. And here we go. Let's update this and we'll bring up another page. This is Down Home Entertainment right here. Okay, here we go. So if you look, this is a previous page from the one I had up there. If you look at number 7, number 7 reads, on October 14th, 2025, and this is Special Agent Nogowich, and I believe that's with SLED, met with Chief Deputy Michael Hatfield, that is Tanner's chief deputy, who provided this flash drive and other documents. The physical documents included a history of calls highlighting over 200 calls for service dating back to 2014 related to this address. Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Sheriff Tanner said publicly that this address was a nuisance with over 400 calls for service since 2014. However, his chief deputy, Michael Hatfield, provided to SLED Special Agent Nogowich before your very eyes, 200 calls for service dating back to 2014 related to this address. So which is it? Is it 200 or is it 400? Well, let's throw another monkey wrench in there because Willie he doesn't own the place to begin with. He leased it. And he's only been there for 3 years. So it's been 11 years. 3 years of it has been Willie's, but he's being hemmed up for 8 years of previous data that is doubly inflated. You saw it for yourself. Twice as many inflated, inflammatory remarks. Why is he being held responsible for that? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And furthermore, as I have been saying, several people, for the sheriff or any police chief or whatever to say, we are going to shut you down. That is such a slap in the face. That is so derogatory to say to a business owner, a constituent at no less. But because of 400 service calls in 11 years, that would be 40 a year. But wait a minute, you only were there 3 years. And now we know it's 200, so that'd be 20, even less, but 3. Now it doesn't seem like such a big deal. Yes, one murder is bad. No doubt. One too many. But on that analogy, Sheriff Tanner, if you're going to go around closing down businesses, waving the heavy hand of the law, then why didn't you close down Luther's Bar on the waterfront in Beaufort? Allegedly, that's where Paul Murdoch bought 4 shots, 2 for him and 2 for one of the Cook boys that they slammed before they wrecked the boat, killing Mallory Beach. How come you didn't close that down? Why didn't you go to Parker's, since there's video of young Mr. Murdoch buying beer on his brother's ID? Obviously, that contributed to it as well. Why didn't you close them down? There's been murders in all these apartment complexes up and down, 21 in the Burton area, all around Walmart and that whole area. There's been murder after murder. Burton's been full. How come you haven't closed down Walmart or that whole shopping center? I mean, do we need to continue? Look at the Triangle on Hilton Head Island. How come that hasn't been shut down? My gosh, I have seen, back in my day, I have seen police there every single day. Blue light special at the Triangle, yet they are not closed down. So what's the real story here? Anyway, further in this incident report, it was right then an investigator or someone said, Beaufort County Sheriff's Office has indicated that this establishment has shown in the past and as recently as October 12th that there is an immediate threat to the health, safety, and welfare of the public, which imperatively requires emergency action to be taken against the business. That's a quote from that incident report. Again, Willie's only been there since 2023, but yet false statements by the sheriff's department to the public, as you just saw and we heard from the press conference, continue. But Willie wasn't there for 3, but for 3. My problem here is continued exaggeration, in my opinion, by law enforcement, almost inflating the numbers. Is it on purpose or is it accident? If it's accident, it's happened all too many times. If it's on purpose, shame on you. stand proud in the truth and just say the truth. My problem here is what about the calls that I mentioned earlier for those other establishments? What about the calls for the establishments that I haven't mentioned? What about the calls while it's not in your jurisdiction, Sheriff, but in Georgia, up and down, what is that, River Street or whatever? How come they haven't just shut down the whole damn thing? Because you don't go around doing that. So Willie had a hearing this past Monday in Columbia about his licensure, and reportedly, while I haven't seen the report, it's supposedly in my email, but I haven't opened it yet. Supposedly the judge who ran this hearing laid the sentence down and revoked the business's alcohol license. And I'm not totally sure about the business license if that was revoked, but he had his liquor license taken away. Now, since that hearing, Willie was quoted in several media outlets saying that he would accept and respect whatever the judge had to say and would start a different type of business in that place in the Corners community of St. Helena Island. I will have to say he's a much bigger man than me. I would be very, very, very upset. Now, you see, that night, Willie's wasn't even open. The place, the building of the name of Willie's Bar, that business was closed. The building was leased by a promoter of an event. Any alcohol that came out of that place didn't belong to Willie. Willie did not sell an ounce of alcohol. Nobody's talked about that. Why would you shut down a businessman for something he had no control over? Well, he had security there, and by gosh, thankfully, he was smart enough to look forward and have security there, which he agreed to and provided. And one of those security officers lost his life. We and other truth-seeking media outlets don't believe this should just go away. This should not just flutter into the minutia, into the everlasting abyss of never to be talked about again. No. Who is next? If the sheriff doesn't like you, are you next? I mean, people should be able to talk about this. We want to know, and we are looking for those answers.
Let's go!
The station that keeps it rocking 24/7.
Ladies and gentlemen,
BigPatriotRadio.com.
All right, I want to talk just a little bit about the Epstein Files. This is kind of cool. We sat down and reviewed this and watched a lot of the media and took notes and coming up with things. We're all inundated with national media, the release of the files, don't release the files. President says, release the files, don't release the files. Yes, release the files. Everybody argues, hell yeah, release them. Don't release them. Yes, release them. Well, we decided to take a pragmatic approach to this and laid out all of the data that we could find. And I want to share with you why we don't think the files, the Epstein files, will ever see the light of day. No. These are my conclusions. Not whether or not I like them or I feel it should be released or not. This is the conclusion that I, quote unquote, foresee. Number one, if the files were released, it would expose intelligence operations, not just crimes. Epstein wasn't just a pervert with a lot of money. He was a cutout. He was an intelligence asset. There are likely multiple agencies involved in this: CIA, MI6, Mossad, private contractors. That's probably involved in it all. Next, releasing those files would expose informants, methods of compromise, blackmail pipelines, surveillance operations, funding sources, aka covert funding sources, no relation, foreign intelligence cooperation. These things is what these type of things are what collapse governments. And I don't believe any administration, whether it's Biden or Trump or Obama or any of them, I don't believe any of them would greenlight such a thing. The next thing, the files include minors, sealed testimony, and protected victims. So, legally, you can't publish identifying information about minors who were trafficked. Total stop. So what does all that mean? Well, wait a minute. What else is in this content? I'm sure that there's obviously graphic content. There's victim statements. There's medical reports. There's sealed depositions. Even if Congress wanted to release them, federal judges could block them. And if they were released, it would be a page with mostly blacked out data, as in there's no information to even look at. That would be somewhat futile, wouldn't it? Anyway, the next thing, these files actually risk national security blowback from foreign governments and adversaries. If the full files were released, it would likely include foreign nationals, foreign intelligence personnel, political elites across the world, and even foreign covert or blackmail operations. If the United States were to expose them, foreign countries would retaliate, second to none. There would be sanctions, expulsions, trade fights, diplomatic crises, intelligence blowback. It would be a proverbial shitstorm of the making. And we would all actually see that before our very eyes. These files, if they were released, threatens the legitimacy of the system itself. What do I mean by that? And this is the part nobody really wants to talk about or say it out loud. Revealing the truth would prove that powerful people are protected. Revealing the truth would prove that law enforcement looked away. Revealing the truth would prove that the intelligence community enabled exploitation. Revealing the truth would reveal that the courts protected the elite and the media buried it. That right there would create public nuclear fallout. Worse than Watergate, worse than the Church Committee issue, worse than Iran-Contra. It would erode the actual foundation of who we are. Now, President Trump, he's got multiple strategic reasons to avoid the release. And I'm not talking about whether he's clean, he's dirty, he's involved, not involved, or adjacent to. Trump has reasons to avoid a full stop, avoid full release. He knows the international community, they call them the IC, was using Epstein. Exposing the program exposes the agencies he needs for cartel operations, Iran operations, deep state purges, foreign leverage, and internal security. He needs those agencies. He needs them. He must have them. Letting this out, releasing this, would destroy the agencies that he needs to run the country. Trump, whether or not he's involved physically, emotionally, he's involved because he can't let this out because it will destroy the country. If this got out, it would implicate major Republican donors. Some may say, you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do. And if you think about it, I mean, you got to get real about this. Some of Trump's biggest allies have proximity to Epstein. He was a liberal. So what? That does not matter. The Republican National Committee would implode if this happened. And it could show that Trump maybe knew, and when he knew, even if he didn't participate, knowing about the network and not acting about it is politically lethal and is suicide. It risks letting these files out in totality, risks the remainder of his presidency during, let's face it, we have multiple global flashpoints right now. He's already moving ships, repositioning assets, preparing for multiple hotspots. Aircraft carrier goes from, the West Coast to the Middle East, now to the Caribbean. A domestic intelligence earthquake, and that's what this would be, isn't strategically advantageous. I would not, thinking about it like that, I would not recommend that. The bottom line, here's the bottom line. The Epstein network was not a crime ring. It's an infrastructure. Think about it that way. The Epstein network, which was big, it's a big network. It's an infrastructure. It's not a crime ring, not a syndicate, not a little, group of weirdos with lots of money. No, this was an infrastructure. It breathed. It connected intelligence agencies, elite power brokers, and global financial institutions. Look at the people. We've already known who's on these lists. We just don't know what they did. Intelligence agencies, elite power brokers, and global financial structures. Releasing the files would not arrest 20 people. It would detonate the entire system. Everyone, and I challenge anyone to argue this point, everyone, Trump, Congress, the agencies, foreign governments, they all have a motive to keep this sealed, period. Now, again, I think it's horrible. It's absolutely pathetic. It's also pathetic that Ghislaine, whatever her name is, Maxwell, is in a club fed. But I don't know that releasing those documents is in the best interest of the country. Some people want to argue that, and I'll be glad to argue that. Anyway, here's my thoughts. One last thing. We're ready to sign off. We told you a few weeks ago about a possible investigation of a person at May River High School for a possible sexual crime. The school district's chief communication officer, Dr. Bruder, replied when I asked. She said the school district is unable to comment on an active law enforcement investigation and that the individual is no longer allowed on Beaufort County School District property. And she said that I would need to contact Coastal Security for employment status. I checked back in with her today. Still no comment. It's an investigation matter. I did reach out to Coastal Security because the school board or the school district told me, I just read it to you, you need to contact Coastal Security for employment status. I don't, they're the one, she told me. So anyway, I reached out to them, have not heard back. So anyway, we'll let you know as that goes along. We have got a lot more stories going on. We're going to be celebrating next week. We are celebrating Thanksgiving. So no show next Thursday. We hope you and your family, blood or not, near or far, are going to be doing that as well. Don't forget, click on this QR code. Click on that. That'll put an app on your phone. No cost to you, but it gets you right into BigPatriotRadio.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We got a blockbuster show where we're going to put the final nail in the coffin of some possible nefarious business happening with the Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation. You're not going to want to miss this. It's going to be the entire show, one full show, putting that final nail in. Be sure to tell your friends, your neighbors, your family to tune in 2 weeks, 7 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and simulcasting around the world on BigPatriotRadio.com. Also, don't forget to like and share. You see it right there. Like and share this stream. Send us a couple stars on Facebook if you can. Until then, be safe and watch your six. Good night, everybody.